published as Clementine initially. And I don't know whether that is just pure coincidence or whether...
You work from home.
I work from home. And so originally I was a music critic, which I broke up with last year, thank God. And for whatever reason, Clementine Bastow couldn't get a review published to save herself. So I just went, well, I'll call myself Clem. And there are still people who think I'm a man. When I write on feminism in the Sydney Morning Herald, people go, this Clem Bastow fellow is and blah, 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 blah. And I just wanted to bring that up because I suddenly just remembered that. I mean, I think it's really important for feminism to keep reassessing what its goals are, reassessing what its core values are.
So what do you think of Naomi's idea, though, of it being part of universal values? I mean, Naomi, you were saying that, you know, to be a feminist, you need to believe in, under your sort of umbrella of enlightenment, democracy, broader concepts. You have to embrace broader concepts. What do you think of that idea, Clem?
I think it's great as long as I'm always concerned when people, not that you are doing it, I think this comes up quite a bit in conversations, cultural conversations, where they'll say, but isn't it just about human rights? And it moves it away from the issues of women's liberation.
Right, but just to be super clear, I'm not saying that.
No, you're not at all. But I think that.
But you think that's a danger, that it dilutes
that would
the
be
focus
my
on
concern. Is that quite often that is a sort of train of thought that comes up. Well, why can't we just be humanists? You know, why can't we just be the same? What about men's rights? What about
Eliza? I'll come to you in one sec, Jermaine. Eliza. Eliza, given the work you do...
I think within a Muslim context, the idea of universal rights is a dangerous one that doesn't wash very well. That doesn't mean that this isn't a brilliant reconception that could re-energize a dialogue within many situations. But, you know, we were listening a little bit earlier to Jermaine talking about the Muslim Brotherhood and the way it works culturally. Well, the Muslim Brotherhood came out of an organization called the Young Men's Muslim Association, which was modeled on what? The YMCA, the Young Men's Christian Association. So I say that just to say that the idea within a Muslim context in many of the places where I've worked, and that's not, there's an explicit rejection of the Enlightenment as not only threatening but other. And I don't think that's going to help feminists within an Islamic context to further their case in any way. Doesn't mean you need to do that.
Eliza, with a great deal of respect from my experience traveling in the Muslim world, which is maybe not as extensive as yours, but I've been to many, many countries in the Muslim world and lived in the Middle East for many years, I totally disagree with what you're saying. It is certainly true that maybe on a very broad level, it's not cultural currency or looked at with some suspicion, but it's my experience that in Jordan, in Egypt, in Lebanon, there is a new generation. As we said earlier, the Arab Spring was led by young women, and they are part of a global kind of Facebook community, which is all about universalizing these ideas of liberty and freedom.
4 out of 5 of the world's Muslims don't live in the Middle East. They live in Africa and they live in Asia. And as we heard earlier, what kind of revolution that's virtual can be that successful? Where are women now? They are getting, shit on in every country within the Arab Spring.
Right, absolutely. However, the language that women including in Africa, in Sierra Leone, where I went to cover young women being held as sex slaves, in Liberia, the language they use to fight